From the very first teaser, before a single episode had aired, something about Kai and Tan Songyun's pairing felt unusually calm. There was no aggressive marketing push built on romance rumors, no exaggerated best chemistry ever claims from the production team. And yet, viewers leaned in immediately. Not because they were told to, but because something about the energy felt steady, almost reassuring. When the drama finally aired, that feeling only grew stronger. It wasn't the kind of chemistry that explodes in the first 5 minutes. There were no dramatic sparks or intense confrontations designed to shock the audience. Instead, there was space. Space in conversations. Space in silences. Space in the way scenes unfolded naturally, without rushing to prove anything. Viewers began commenting that watching Kai and Tan Songyun together felt like watching two people who already shared a history, even when the script said they didn't. Their characters didn't need to over-explain emotions. Often, a glance or a pause carried more weight than a full paragraph of dialogue. And that's when people started saying it. This feels different. Kai has always been known for his physical presence on screen. He commands attention easily, often playing characters who are emotionally intense or outwardly expressive. Tan Songyun, on the other hand, has built her reputation on emotional nuance. She doesn't push feelings outward. She lets them settle, letting the audience discover them gradually. Together, those two approaches didn't clash. They balanced. In scene after scene, Kai's energy softened instead of dominating. His movements slowed. His reactions became more measured. Meanwhile, Tan Songyun's expressions grew richer, deeper, as if she felt safe enough to let emotions surface without exaggeration. That mutual adjustment is rare. Crew members later hinted that during filming, neither actor tried to outshine the other. If one felt a scene needed to be quieter, the other followed. If one suggested holding back, the other trusted that instinct. It became less about individual performance and more about shared rhythm. And viewers could feel that rhythm. One scene in particular became a turning point for audience perception. It wasn't a confession scene. It wasn't a dramatic argument. It was a simple moment where their characters sat together in silence after a difficult conversation. No music. No dramatic camera movement. Just breathing, subtle shifts in posture, eyes meeting briefly before looking away again. That scene went viral for all the wrong reasons. Nothing happened. And that was exactly why people couldn't stop talking about it. Fans began rewatching episodes not for plot twists, but for micro moments. The way Kai instinctively angled his body toward Tan Songyun, even when his character was supposed to be emotionally guarded. The way Tan Songyun mirrored his breathing during tense scenes, creating an unspoken emotional synchronization. These weren't scripted instructions. These were instincts. Behind the scenes, staff noticed that the two rarely needed multiple takes for emotionally heavy scenes. Directors would give a brief note, sometimes none at all, and they would deliver something complete. Not perfect in a polished sense, but real in a human sense. As filming progressed, the director reportedly began allowing longer takes, trusting that Kai and Tan Songyun wouldn't rush emotional beats. Scenes that could have been cut short were left intact because the emotional flow felt natural. That trust is earned, not given. In interviews, both actors spoke carefully about working together. Kai described Tan Songyun as someone who listens with her whole attention, while Tan Songyun referred to Kai as steady and reliable. Neither used dramatic praise. Neither leaned into hype. And strangely, that restraint made fans believe them more. Because when actors oversell chemistry, it feels like marketing. When they understate it, it feels like truth. Fans also noticed how different their promotional appearances felt compared to other pairings. There was no exaggerated closeness, no forced jokes, no rehearsed fan service moments. They stood comfortably beside each other, spoke when spoken to, and listened when the other answered. Sometimes they didn't even look at each other, and that, somehow, felt more intimate than constant eye contact. Online discussions began shifting away from shipping culture and toward emotional analysis. Fans wrote long posts about emotional maturity, mutual respect, and the difference between loud chemistry and quiet connection. Many pointed out that Kai and Tan Songyun's pairing felt less like first love and more like understanding. Less about excitement and more about safety. Less about performance and more about presence. That's not something audiences feel often. It also helped that both actors are at a point in their careers where they no longer need to prove anything. Kai doesn't need to dominate scenes to stay relevant. Tan Songyun doesn't need dramatic breakdowns to showcase skill. They trusted the story, and more importantly, trusted each other. That trust became the foundation of everything viewers felt. Even scenes of disagreement between their characters carried an unusual softness. There was tension, yes, but not cruelty. Conflict without destruction. Emotion without chaos. It felt adult. Fans who had grown tired of exaggerated drama found comfort here. And perhaps that's why this pairing resonated so deeply. Because in a fast-moving industry filled with noise, Kai and Tan Songyun offered stillness. They reminded viewers that connection doesn't always shout. Sometimes it sits quietly, waiting for those who are willing to pay attention. As episodes continued to air, viewers stopped asking whether the chemistry was real. They stopped debating labels. Instead, they talked about how the pairing made them feel. Calm, seen, grounded. And that may be the most telling reaction of all. Because when something feels different, it's usually because it is. Not louder, not flashier, just more honest. That honesty didn't fade as the series went on. If anything, it became more pronounced. As the story deepened and the characters faced heavier emotional stakes, viewers noticed that Kai and Tan Songyun didn't respond by amplifying their performances. They did the opposite. They pulled back. They trusted silence. They trusted restraint. And that choice made every emotional moment land harder. There were scenes where other dramas would have relied on dramatic music or heightened reactions. Here, there was none of that. A simple exchange of looks carried the weight of entire conversations. A pause before speaking revealed more than a confession ever could. Fans found themselves holding their breath without realizing why. And that's when many viewers understood what felt different. This wasn't chemistry built on sparks. It was chemistry built on understanding. As episodes progressed, subtle patterns emerged. Kai's character often waited for Tan Songyun's character to finish speaking, even when emotions ran high. He didn't interrupt. He listened. Tan Songyun's character, in turn, showed an instinctive awareness of his emotional limits, knowing when to push and when to step back. That kind of balance isn't accidental. It requires deep attunement between actors. Behind the scenes, that attunement was becoming more visible to those on set. Staff members later shared that Kai and Tan Songyun often rehearsed quietly together, without drawing attention. No dramatic line readings. No overanalysis. Just calm discussions about motivation, pacing, and emotional logic. Sometimes they didn't rehearse at all, trusting that the scene would find its shape naturally once the camera rolled. That level of trust is rare, especially in high-pressure productions. Directors reportedly adjusted shooting styles to accommodate them. Camera movements became slower. Cuts became fewer. There was confidence that the emotional arc would hold without interference. In some cases, scenes were kept longer than planned because no one wanted to break the flow. Viewers felt that continuity. Instead of being pulled out of scenes by editing, they stayed immersed. They felt like observers rather than spectators, as if they were watching real moments unfold rather than scripted drama. Fans began sharing personal reactions rather than theories. Some said the pairing reminded them of relationships built on mutual respect rather than passion alone. Others said watching Kai and Tan Songyun felt comforting during stressful days, like emotional grounding disguised as entertainment. That kind of response goes beyond fandom. It speaks to resonance. Even critics noted the shift. Reviews mentioned emotional maturity, tonal consistency, and the actor's ability to convey intimacy without spectacle. Kai was praised for his restraint. Tan Songyun was praised for her emotional clarity. Together, they were praised for something harder to define but impossible to miss. Still, neither actor leaned into the reaction publicly. In interviews, when asked about the audience's response, Kai redirected praise toward the script and Tan Songyun's professionalism. Tan Songyun, in turn, emphasized teamwork and preparation rather than chemistry. Neither used the moment to build hype. That humility only strengthened the audience's trust. Because when actors don't try to capitalize on emotional impact, it feels like they're protecting something rather than selling it. Fans also noticed that as the drama gained popularity, Kai and Tan Songyun's interactions didn't change. There was no sudden increase in closeness for promotional purposes, no exaggerated gestures, no teasing statements designed to stir speculation. What people saw at the beginning was what they continued to see. Consistency. And consistency, especially in the public eye, is one of the clearest signs of sincerity. By the later episodes, viewers stopped framing their discussions around whether the chemistry was intentional. Instead, they spoke about how rare it was to see two actors trust each other enough to stay understated. How refreshing it felt to watch connection grow without manipulation. Many described the experience as quiet but powerful. And maybe that's why viewers truly felt something different this time. Because Kai and Tan Songyun didn't try to convince anyone of anything. They simply showed up, listened, adjusted, and respected the emotional space between them. In doing so, they reminded audiences of something easily forgotten.